Greetings and salutations, and welcome to episode 204 of Ref the District. I'm Nathan Perry. That's the Stoner. That's Trev here, and we have amazing things to talk about. We are going to talk about a victory over the New Orleans Saints. Just a little quick recap for those who might not have watched our instant reaction after the game on Sunday. We'll be talking about playoff bound Washington's path. We do have a video that a lot of you have watched, but we're going to be talking about kind of where Washington stands right now, how they've gotten here, and what our outlook is on the Washington Commanders making the playoffs. And then we'll have Leigh Mayock on with us for the Eagles rematch. Will the Washington Commanders get revenge this Sunday? Well, we'll talk to her to see how the Eagles are doing and whether or not the passing game has improved since the last time that we're here. Of course, we stream live every Wednesday at 7:30 Eastern here on YouTube and Facebook. I've already got several people in here already. Locked on Law, Greg, Luis is there, Doug in the house, Big E, Uptown Dre, everybody in the house. Of course, we are brought to you by the fine... Well, I'm not going to say the fine people, but we are brought to you by Bet Online, the world's most trusted betting online source. You can head over to Bet Online and use the code Bleav, B-L-E-A-V, to get yourself a little extra cash there as you use their site and all the information they provide to bet on the NFL games, the NHL games, the NBA games, even UFC matches, all right at your fingertips with the ability to watch the game as it happens and use their live betting tools as you're there. Again, that's the code Bleav, B-L-E-A-V. Bet Online. The game starts here. Let's move on to the New Orleans game. Now, you two did talk with Tim, and Tim, thanks for filling in for me on Sunday. I miss one instant reaction to be at my kids' band recital, and what do you know? You guys change it up on me. You replace me. No, you did a fantastic job there for things. So, but let's go over this New Orleans game.
Yeah.
A little close for comfort, but have you guys rewatched it at all? Did you guys maybe go back and take a look?
You know I do. I always do.
Trev says no for those audio listeners.
I did not.
Why not, Trev? What were you so afraid of?
I don't really know how to do that, to be honest. I haven't done it on any game. So
I thought it was just this game you hadn't done it. I mean, you don't record it. Do you watch it? Do you watch it stream always?
I just watch it live every time.
Yeah.
I don't.
Oh, okay.
I don't go back and rewatch.
All right. Well, yeah. Well,
sometimes it really is worth it. We can walk you through how to do it through our Ref the District account because we do have that capability. What my favorite thing, by the way, the favorite way to do it, because we don't got a lot of time in our lives. I mean, the all 22 is fantastic. But if you just need a quick down and dirty, they have the quick replay. It's like 30 minutes long and it's only the plays. That's all you have to watch is just go through the actual plays. No stoppage. Fantastic way there on NFL Plus. Maybe we can get them to sponsor us, and that'd be fantastic. Seeing as I'm shouting them out right now, but that's the way to do it. But Stoner, you did rewatch it.
Yeah,
I know the game says that it was a 20-19, only 1 point victory. Washington almost losing it if that 2-point conversion attempt was good.
Mm-hmm.
But my rewatch, it didn't feel like that close to the game.
No, it wasn't, especially the first half. I mean, the first half was about as dominant a first half as you can get. Mm-hmm. But whatever reason in the second half, I don't know if they let off the gas, if they just got too comfortable, whatever it was, they just didn't play the way that you need to play. And hopefully it's a wake-up call. But most of the time in that game, I felt like Washington was in full control. And then old Spencer Rattler came in and gave them a little spark, making some plays downfield. Washington was just kind of, oh, man. It kind of reminded me of more of a veteran team because usually veteran teams kind of understand how you can put it on cruise control and still get by, but it doesn't usually work that way. So these young guys just kind of seem like they put it on cruise control. You just can't do that in the NFL. Because the guys on the other side, man, they're hungry. They, regardless of what their team's record, when you get out there, you got to put your game on tape. and you've got to show people, if you don't have a contract the next year, that you're worthy of some money. So they just let off the gas. It wasn't it was that close to losing, but pulled out the win, so it was all right.
Yeah, this was, as far as like not giving up, by the way, the New Orleans Saints technically still are in the running for a playoff spot.
Yeah.
And so they, of course, weren't looking to lose that game. It wasn't like, the Giants or one of these other eliminated teams like the Panthers, who are really looking forward to next season and want a decent draft pick where the coaches and the team can kind of understand losing a game like this. New Orleans wouldn't mind being in the playoffs. That's money for the team. And that's, of course, like you said, a challenge for them to continue. And they did start the year off 2-0, then had a very bad slide. But the New Orleans is probably a better team than most of us were giving credit for going into the game. They probably weren't as good as they should have been on Sunday. They did get a lot of sacks, and Washington was shooting themselves in the foot quite a bit as well. There was the missed opportunities from Jaden Daniels to Terry McLaurin. I've never seen him blow open the top the way that he did on Sunday, and he was just doing it time and time again. You got to figure at some point New Orleans was going to adjust and like throw some safety help over there, but it never mattered. But then speaking of never mattering, for those who are watching us here on YouTube or Facebook, you can see the image I used is his eyes closed, catching the football for a touchdown. That was one heck of a play from Jaden Daniels to Terry McLaurin. Jaden Daniels nearly falling down and then threading the needle in between the defenders, and Terry McLaurin coming down with it. Fantastic effort by both of them to score the opening touchdown for Washington. But you're right, so I don't feel like that game was close. It ended up being close, and we again, Trev, had a little bit of a fourth quarter kind of collapse in a way where they came back in that final drive. If this was the same old Skins, Trev, it would have been a completed 2-point conversion, and Washington would have been coming home with a loss.
Oh, for sure. You even heard, I think Frankie Lulu said he's glad they ran that type of play at the end, because if they ran a different play, they probably would have scored, like maybe a running play or a different passing play. They would have scored and would have won the game 21-20. But I feel like we were up 17-0, and then we just, like Stoner said, let the foot off the gas, and we let Spencer Rattler rattle off 19, no pun intended, rattle off 19 points, or 3 points after that. It was just a boring game. We missed the explosive plays. Kind of got cute a little bit with the play calling there a little bit. That's what I mentioned after the game on Sunday. And it's just like Stoner said, let the foot off the gas, got complacent. And when that happens, to teams like the New Orleans Saints, who are 5-8 with no starting quarterback, no star receiver, Alvin Kamara was whatever, no Taysom Hill, you would have thought we would have put, a foot on their throats and just stomped them in the ground. I think that would have happened if we would connected with Terry on a couple of those explosive plays. We would have been up. We would have been talking different today about it. Would have been a blowout like it was supposed to be. But
sure, it's 14 points right there.
Yeah, and once we left the foot off the gas to teams like that, we end up playing down to their level of competition. We let them hang around the game. We let them give them chance after chance to make it a game, and it bit us in the butt. It almost cost us a huge, important loss or W that we needed. So fortunately, they ran a botched 2-point conversion play that had no chance, and we come out, escape, and survive with a 20-19 win. But we can't afford to do this for the rest of the schedule, rest of the season, rest of the playoffs. If we make it, we cannot afford to let our foot off the gas and play down the level of competition, because we're going to end up losing those games. So I feel like as a team, we're happy we won, but we're disappointed with the performance. And in the NFL, a win is a win. It's hard to win NFL, but these players and coaches are more focused on the performance and how we got that win at the end of the day, rather than just say, hey, we won, let's just keep going. So I think Stoner's right. We're probably pretty mad at the way we performed and kind of embarrassed a little bit too. Because
John Keim had tweeted out after the game that the locker room wasn't jubilation. It wasn't exciting. It was like they got the dub, but that was not a game that I feel like they felt comfortable with. It was Washington's first win on the road after a bye week in forever.
Yeah.
Forever.
Well, and this team, for whatever reason, seems like they don't play well with rest. right?
Yeah.
A bunch of their games, 3 of their games this year, you had the Thursday night game prior to Pittsburgh that they lost. Then you had the Thursday night game prior to, what was the other one? I forget. Sorry, but
Cowboys maybe.
Bears.
Yeah, no, the Cowboys. That's right. And then you had this one where you had your full bye. Remember, we're always talking about the mini bye,
Mm-hmm.
and they just don't seem to play well off of the bye for whatever reason. Who knows what's going on there? But there's a lot of concerning issues, obviously, with this team. There's, of course, a lot to like about what happened on Sunday, but it was just one of those games, man. It's any given Sunday. These things can happen. Any bad team can beat any good team, but Washington just I can't put my finger on this particular game. Like Trev said, it was kind of a boring game. It was an ugly game. That first drive, you remember they had penalties but they still got in position to kick the field goal. And then there was a weird penalty on New Orleans, and then we got it back, and then we barely got into the end zone because of penalties again. It was just a weird game like that. And something that I like to do, and I challenge you guys to do, and everybody in the chat to do it, is just for a few minutes, just take the mindset of the other team, because we always look at it from Washington's standpoint, right? And we look at how the refs were not good in this game from Washington's standpoint.
Yeah, even New Orleans actually had a gripe. The head coach afterwards talking about how they, gave a kicker an extra shot.
Yeah, exactly. So look at it from New Orleans standpoint, right? Look at it from things like, do you remember that in the first half, there was that long crossing route to MVS where Hayner put it right on the money and it just went right through his hands. Like, come on, you're an NFL receiver. What if they complete that? Right. And then you have that situation like you talked about, Nathan, with the kicker, Joseph, who missed the field goal right before the end of was that the first half, the first quarter, into the second, or was that third into the fourth? Whichever it was. And it was legit, though. Let's be honest. It was a good 3 or 4 seconds after the quarter ended. But still,
for sure.
It's weird how they do that, right? They don't blow the whistle, but then all of a sudden somebody says, "Hey, you messed up." Oh, well, let's fix it. Yeah. That's crazy to me. But also the penalty on their Washington's first drive of the game when they kicked the field goal, but they got that personal foul for, butt cannon Tyler Ott on the snap for the field goal.
Oh yeah,
right. And that wasn't.
What did you call it?
Borderline. Well, we called it something different back in the day. I'm trying not to curse. we call it shit cannon. That's what we call it. When you,
I was like, did this man just say butt canning? I was just like, did I hear that right? Butt cannon.
Yeah, back in the day, we called it. When you had the center like that, you shit can the center, and that knocked him on his butt like that. But they had a legitimate beef about that one as well, right? Yeah. And there were some other legitimate beefs. And then think about the Terry McLaurin touchdown, the first one, the one that's in this picture right here. They played perfect defense on that. You can't do any better than that. What if that completion doesn't happen? This is a totally So try to look at it from the other team standpoint sometimes, and it will make you see that these games come down to 1 or 2 or 3 plays, or even 1 or 2 officials calls, and it's not always against Washington. It's a give and take on both sides. It happens for both teams.
Yeah, I think one of the things the coaches are preaching, and it's something that when I coach kids, and it's the same thing I preach. It's like you can't blame the refs, right? You can't put yourself in a position where the refs decide the game. Like if they're egregious throughout the thing, that's my job as a coach, and that's their job as a coach to get to the refs and be like, "Hey, this is lopsided. This isn't, you're not calling the game fairly, right? That needs to happen during the game, right? But the players, you can't let it do that. You got to play in a manner that doesn't make it to where a clock stoppage, as egregious as it was, and as much as that staff wanted to ignore that question in the media pool afterwards,
it's not changing.
You can't, it doesn't change the fact that it happened. They ended up with 3 seconds. They score a touchdown. and you thankfully don't lose the game on a 2-point conversion.
Yeah, and think about like the coach for New Orleans. That guy's got some fire. Their interim coach, Rizzi.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's got some fire, right? But on those couple of controversial plays that went against his team on that penalty on the field goal and the kick that they allowed him to redo, right? You see how angry he was and how pissed and how he's screaming at the official. I'm not going to change a call just because you're screaming and yelling and blaming them for messing. They're not changing the call. So you can do all that you want, and we as fans, we can scream and yell. They're not changing, and it's never going to change.
And it's not the NBA where you can get a makeup call, right? Like it's not. It's the NBA. They definitely have those, right? They have those.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna call. We didn't call it last time, but we're gonna call this ticky tacky version because we missed it, and try to make up for it because they did deserve to get to the line. They don't have that in the NFL. It's not that kind of game there. But it is interesting. I love this one from Tommy T here. Refs see Benjamin St-Juste and already have their hands on the flag. To be fair, I thought on live viewing, I thought it was ticky-tacky.
Yeah.
And I even told you guys that. And then you guys shared I think Trev, you shared in our group chat a clip of it. And I was like, ignore what I said. It wasn't ticky-tacky. He straight up. Benjamin St-Juste straight up grabs the face mask. It's not a hands to the face type deal. It was straight up curl fingers around the mask. I was just like, wow, that's pretty bad.
And that dude, that was in the second half. Yeah. And that dude played 2 plays in the first half.
Yeah.
And then he played that play, and that was it. He got in for 1 play, caused the penalty, and never played again. And he might be sitting next to Fedarian Mathis this week on the bench, not even playing, being inactive.
Yeah.
Because I think they're done with him. I think Trev said it last Sunday that you're more comfortable with Michael Davis playing over him.
Yeah. Oof.
And Michael Davis
he's not been playing well at all, which is unfortunate. I mean, we're not necessarily expecting big things from him, but I mean, still, you wanted a competent guy. I feel confident, and I had actually called this out a few weeks ago, where I had said with Lattimore coming back, I had posed, and I said I would personally keep Sanistrol on the outside and keep Iggy in the slot.
Yeah.
And Stoner, I think you were surprised by it. You're like, no, why? Move everybody. And a lot of the people in the chat were saying, no, Sanistrol belongs in the slot where he's supposed to be. And Benjamin St-Juste can stay out there as the 2. And we did talk, and I said, he may be taking off the pressure, making him not a number 1 guy. Maybe he's a good number 2 guy. Well, he's not. He's CB4. And like you said, he might be CB5. He might not be dressing.
Yeah.
And getting the Fedarian Mathis. Fedarian Mathis is not dressing over a practice squad guy.
Yeah, dude, I don't like that. Okay. I'm sorry, but
like you don't want like which part?
Like let him play, dude. Like let's just let him see what he has. If you don't want to keep him rest of it like for next year, that's fine. But let him play these last few games. I think he's had his moments, but he's been quite helpful for us for his defense. Better than Carl Davis. Like they keep elevating that dude. I'm like, you don't even hear his name on like a gang tackle or assist on a tackle or any kind of anything. You never hear his name. I mean, if he's outshining in practice, cool, but like, let's just be honest with ourselves. I know they've seen what he has, but they also seen what other people have too. So it's like, just let him play, dude. Like, stop.
He can't play, Trev.
Davis.
He can't play.
He can play. They just are basing it off of a couple of days of practice. That, like, you know what I mean? Like, that's just I don't.
You know what that sounds like? You know what that sounds like, Trev? When I remember getting cut from my 9th grade basketball team, and I was so much better than the guy who made the team over me. The 13th guy or whatever. But he was 6'1", right? And in high school, 6'1" is like really tall. 9th grade or whatever, that's really tall, right? And I was a much better player than him, but they kept him because it was like, well, he's 6'1" and we think he can do better. I kicked his tail up and down
That's what I'm
every time in
saying.
practice.
And that's not on you.
That's not the right move, Trev.
It
The
is
right
the right,
move
bro.
is to take the
play,
guy who performs, not
and
the
it
guy
sounds
who
like
has the potential.
And in your case, it sounds like they chose the guy with potential because he was 6'1". So that's
Right.
That's my whole point. Like, no,
you're gonna
play your best
keep
player available.
Mathis, who has potential because he was a second-round pick, over a guy who's kicking his butt all day, every day in practice. You take the guy
I don't like it.
who is outperforming.
I don't like it.
You take the best 53 or on game day, best 45.
I'm going to trust the coaches. They've been right on a lot of these personnel decisions that they've made. As much as we haven't agreed with some of them, that is one. TJ asking, Stoner had that Jordan arc? Not had, has that Jordan arc. Talking to Stoner, real quick aside here, Stoner would get picked in a pickup game over me, who I measured just this last week at 6'5". But in the pickup games we used to play in Germany, they would easily take Stoner and his cherry picking self over me.
He looks like a cherry picker.
Oh, he totally is. But he was money. He was money from outside the arc. So that Davis or Sheldon Day is one of the guys who's Sheldon Day's been fine, and then the practice guy is not
Carl Davis.
Charles Davis, not Sheldon Davis, is Biggie. Carl Davis. It's a C name. But Mathis not suiting up. It's just wild. Benjamin St. Just is looking like he's going to head that way. You can't get 3 plays and one of them be negative. Like that's just, you can't do that. You can't do it. And it's just not, it's not a good way to do it. Another guy who didn't suit up, as Grimjaw points out, was badass himself, Biadish. Biadish not being available changed everything. Run blocking was awful and pass blocking was worse. Pass blocking, Jaden Daniels needs to figure something out. He needs to throw the ball away, do something. Some of these, and Dan Quinn talked about these, are going down as sacks.
Yeah.
They're 0 yardage sacks, but they're still sacks, right? So it's not a positive play, but it's getting counted. Somebody's going to get a big paycheck from it later on. But something needs to happen. Jaden Daniels, he's money. I mean, look at the touchdown pass to Terry McLaurin, right? When he scrambles, he can make good things happen. Mm-hmm. This was a game, I think, the first time we've seen him use his legs this effectively in a long time.
Yeah.
Because he did get injured after that big run in Carolina. And I don't think we've really seen him use his legs to this effect since that game. But he was fantastic with his legs this game. But losing your center, it's going to change a lot of dynamics. And, the defense, unfortunately, even Chase Young showing up and showing out and just taking down Jaden Daniels time after time. And it would make me worry about the Eagles, but if Tyler's back at it, we can, I think we'll have a different game plan altogether. So,
and I think the worst part of that, Nathan, is that this was not an injury that they were dealing with all week and that they could plan for, that they could have their plan B on the side in case Tyler Biadish doesn't go. This was something that just came up. And then all of a sudden he's out and you have to execute a game plan that you probably know is not Michael Dieter's strengths. Yeah. They're doing things that are not his strength. They're Biadish's strengths. But you can't change the game plan. It's too late. So I think that did definitely have a lot to do with it. But still, as a center, and remember, the center's got to make all the line calls, right? He's got to communicate all of that. And if he's not getting number 1 snaps all week, then it's just going to be a struggle like that when it's that sudden. It's already going to be a little bit of a struggle if you have a backup center. As we love to say on this show, he's a backup for a reason. But then you add that added dimension of him not knowing about it until right then at the start of the game. That's just a whole new thing. And they struggled, obviously. But the one thing I did like, they stuck with the run. As much as it struggled, they stuck with it. And I think that also helped them in this game. Robinson had 21 carries, and he had one of his runs was 20 yards. So he had 21 for 65. If you take out that 120-yard run, he had 20 for 45. That's terrible. But it's 20 rushes just for Robinson. They were committed to it. They kept the ball. They kept their defense on the sideline. They kept the other team's offense off the field, and that helped them eventually win the game.
Well, it was a win, no matter how close. It was a win, and I do love that the team isn't happy with that performance. So maybe they will perform better when they face the Eagles. We're going to have Leigh Mayock on with us during the cool down to talk about that Eagles rematch. Lots of Eagles fans in the chat today.
Yeah, they
love
are.
to see it. If they put something up that's more actual topic, we'll make sure that we talk about that instead of just Eagle emojis. We're going to be moving on, though, because this victory did put Washington firmly in the driver's seat for the playoffs, and we're going to be breaking down some scenarios here on the game. Welcome to episode 204, The Game, here on Ref the District, where we're going to talk about the hopefully playoff-bound Washington Commanders, 83% chance to make the playoffs, according to most models when it comes to their victory path into the playoffs. Now, Washington fans, don't sleep yet on this team, okay? And you don't have to sleep if you head over to don'tsleepenergy.com. Use the code DISTRICT. Get yourself 10% off your entire order. Get yourself an energy drink, whether or not it's the original flavors or the sugar-free flavors. They've got you covered, even with energy shots and fantastic gear. Support a local company there in the DMV for your energy needs. Don't Sleep Energy. It makes you great. 83% chance, Trev. The first winning record since 2016, and the first time, like, they've got stats galore. My favorite thing is even the Washington Commanders social media team is starting to call out just how bad they were under the previous owner, where the one stat that I showed to you guys. It was the social media team had shared, like, they've had X amount of like leads, 20-point leads.
Oh yeah. So they've had 20-point leads this year. They've had it in like 5 games.
Yes.
In the last 20 years, they've had it in like 1.
2. Yeah. It was crazy. 20 years of futility. And this year has been a revelation. And Washington was in the playoffs just 4 years ago, 2020. They backed into the playoffs. No, I mean, I guess they technically won, but I mean, it was a losing record and it felt different. It was the COVID year and all this other stuff. Wasn't necessarily a strong showing that year, but this year, Trev, it feels different.
Oh yeah, it definitely feels different. We look better as a team on the football field. Our head coaches are not blowing smoke in press conferences. They're actually like being attentive and answering questions the best way they can. Our front office is here to win, and they've shown that by building this roster this year already. They took a bunch of Jags and 1-year guys and 3-year deal guys and just put them all together in a bucket, and here we are at 9-5. I told Stoner on Sunday I'm kind of a little disappointed because we start off 7-2. I'm already spoiled with this year's team. We start off 7-2, and we're 9-5, so we've lost 3 out of the last 5 games, but I feel like those 3 games, we probably could have won at least 1 or 2 out of those. It'd be sitting prettier than having to now go through this mathematical, this person has to lose or tie loss to get in the playoffs, which is cool. I mean, we're in that conversation that we have a chance to make the playoffs with some scenarios to happen. But I did get a little disappointed that we started off 7-2 and ended up at 7-5, and now we're 9-5. But hey, we're still 9-5. Coming into this season, of course, I picked 12 wins because of who I am, but realistically, I didn't expect us to have 9 wins right now at this point in the season. It feels great to be talked about in the postseason conversation with all these other teams, and it feels good that we have to win games in order to get in, and other things have to happen for us to get in too as well. So overall, I'm very, very pleased, very shocked, and my expectations have been passed for this season. Like I said, we took a whole bunch of people and brought this thing together, and now we're 9-5. So we are in control of our own destiny, which has not happened in so long.
Yeah,
and then, like, going back to that COVID year, we won the division, but we were 7-9, and it just felt like cool. We won the division, but by default, because that division that year it was so bad that year. It's not that much better this year either with us and the Eagles and leading the conference, but this year feels different because we actually are looking like we belong in the league again, and like we don't have a dark cloud over our heads to, outshine what's happening on the field. So yeah, just a great season. I'm happy right now. 9 wins, 5 losses with a rookie quarterback, a head coach retrying it again, an all-star coaching staff, an offensive coordinator looking to find his mark in the NFL again, and just a bunch of different players on the roster that came from all different walks of life in the NFL. So I'm happy. 9-5. Here we come, baby.
It's definitely fair to say when you look at Washington hasn't beaten anybody this year. We all know this. Had the 31st most difficult schedule, right? The second easiest schedule, even up to this point. At the beginning of the year, it was they have had the second easiest schedule this year. Fine. That's all fine and dandy, and we have those expectations that were so low at the beginning of the year, and this is where they're at 9-5. To have control of your destiny, as Trev said, that's a massive change from years when we have to get so much help to maybe squeak into the playoffs. And when you get into the playoffs, we saw it in 2020. We saw if you get in, anything can happen. And little old Taylor Heineke, who had played like 3 games total for Washington, almost pulled off
his sister's couch.
Yeah.
Yep.
Almost did it. And that team had no business beating Tampa, who went on to win the Super Bowl, by the way, that year with Tom Brady. But they almost did. And that's what you have now with this team. If you get in and JD5 is healthy, anything is possible.
Yep.
On any given Sunday. And so you worry about whether you deserve to be there, whether you're a championship caliber team or not. You worry about all of that in the offseason once you eventually get knocked out or win it all, whatever it is. And then you figure it out from there on whether or not you deserved it. But all you want is a chance, a chip in a chair. You just want to get into the dance. All these cliches, right? And who knows what can happen. And with Jaden Daniels, all bets are off because he can absolutely take over a game and put you over the top once you get there.
I got one here from, I'm going to call this Jaw, and please correct me in the comment section if I got that right or wrong and how to say it. But this comment here hits the mark, I think. Before we didn't beat struggling teams consistently. Got to start somewhere. And that's true. I mean, look at, again, we talked about even the social media teams getting into how bad they were under the previous ownership. For the last 20 years, they haven't. We talked about that before a couple of weeks ago, where Washington's only had 10 double-digit victories 2 times this century.
Right.
In 23, now going on 24 seasons here, they've had 2 times where they've had it. They have not had an 11-win season since they won the Super Bowl.
91.
And 91-92 was the last time that they've had more than 11 wins. And every other franchise has had 11 wins in that time span. Washington is the lone team that has not had 11 wins in
it was
40
Detroit.
plus years.
Detroit was there until last year when Detroit finally got over that hump. And we were lumped in with Detroit. And now, all by ourselves, last team that hasn't done it in this century, which is a crazy. We have a chance to get there. You win 2 out of 3, 2 out of the next 3, then you get in. That's one of the things that we talked about quite a bit on our playoff video, our playoff scenario video, is they control their own destiny. And you don't have to win all 3. You just have to win 2, in any 2. It doesn't matter which 2. You get to 11 wins, and there isn't a single team in the NFC who can catch you for the 7th spot. You can still get the 6th spot. You can still get the 5th spot. And believe it or not, you can still get the 2nd spot if you go 3-0 and the Eagles go 0-3, which is very, very, very unlikely.
Yeah, but the Eagles having the Giants and the Cowboys after us. Yeah,
crazier
things have happened.
But also,
crazy things have happened.
But also, they can actually clinch this weekend.
Yeah.
They absolutely can clinch if they win over Philly and Atlanta loses, and then also either the Rams or the Seahawks lose a game, then they can clinch this weekend. And then your next two games don't mean a whole lot. But the odds are that all of those are not going to happen. The Falcons play the Giants. They're heavily favored in that game. Washington plays Philly, which Washington is the underdog in that game. So we'll see what happens. All you got to do is win 2 games. That's it.
We got to go back to our sponsor Bet Online and put in a parlay for all of those things to happen. I want to know, what are the odds of all those things happening through the betting sportsbook? Maybe that to be something we can do as a short or whatnot. Yam had commented on this earlier. I didn't want to let it pass by. I'd showed it, but this, I want to talk to, this is the other part of this, right? A lot of people talking about how Washington, even with their 9 victories, haven't really beaten anybody. They've beaten a bunch of losing teams. Well, Yam says you play the teams in front of you, right? It's not Washington that dictates the schedule. Washington just dictates whether or not they play well enough to win, and Washington has been doing it this year. And it's been fun watching it, especially the early season explosive offense. To Trev, you called the New Orleans game boring, right? And that was what, the 3rd boring game we've had this year, and there were victories. All the boring games to us were victories. What is life right now that we can sit there and talk about a victory being boring for the Washington Commanders? That's never been the case for us. And here we are. We just kind of sleepwalked through this game. It's just always going to be a W. So we're just kind of like, whatever.
That's crazy. This is what happens this is what winning does to you. I mean, yeah, we've had a whole new turnaround. Everything's brand new, but we're winning games. So it spoils you. It makes you think that you're back. And that's what's happened to me personally this year. I mean, we're 9-5. Jaden Daniels has like an 8-time Rookie of the Week. Our offense, we were like the top scoring offense there for a long time in the league. Like we were, and those crappy teams we were beating, like somebody pointed out, we were never beating them like that. If we were scraping by, like this New Orleans Saints game. We were scraping by, or just barely getting it done. But now we're putting the foot on the gas and destroying these awful teams, which, by the way, are now starting to catch a little fire towards the end of the season because they have nothing to play for except for their professional careers at this point. They're not making the playoffs. So, like, for example, the Panthers, they're giving these teams a run for the money. They could have beat the Eagles the other week. They probably should have beat the Eagles the other week. But, bad teams find ways to lose, and that's what happens. But same with the Bengals. And we just happen to catch them at the right time, because I'd rather beat them bad teams like we did early in the season than right now we're trying to make it to the promised land, where it's going to be a little tougher because everybody gets better except for the Chicago Bears. Everybody gets better in the league at some point, and the Jaguars.
We broke the Bears.
We got people fired. We got people losing.
They haven't won. They have not won.
No, they have
not.
How
many is that? 7 in a row, maybe something like that they've lost.
It's awful.
And it's awful the Giants have been the past years. They only have one playoff win, I think, in like the past 5 or 6 years. And we would get swept by them. We wouldn't beat them. They would beat us every time. As poorly as they were constructed as a team, they find a way to beat us, but not this year. Even if it takes 7 field goals or if it takes a 27-22 type game, we got the dubs. So,
yeah. So it's 8 losses, by the way, including the Hail Maryland there at the that end. They're 4-2 going in to that. They're 4-10 right now.
Hey, we've been there. We've been there.
Yeah, last year we were there last year.
Yeah.
Remember we
4
were
wins
4
and
9
lost.
Yeah.
Remember Washington was 4-4, and we're all thinking, well, Sam Howell's playing well, and we're thinking, all right, maybe we got our quarterback of the future, and we're gonna go draft Joe Alt in the first round, and we're on our way. And
all he needs is the O-line. Nah,
I was about to say, how many people said draft a wide receiver even and roll with Sam Howell and all this other, and there's just crazy times here. Ted's gonna get kicked off on the right foot here with a $5 super chat donation. We appreciate you, Ted, for that one. Is it just me, or does this game have the same feeling like when we beat the undefeated Eagles back in 2022? Of course, for Washington to be playoff bound, Stoner had mentioned there is a chance they can clinch, which is also, by the way, crazy that we're talking about clinching a playoff spot before the end of December. Just wild times. And also, I just love that we're talking playoff spots and seeding rather than mock drafts in December here. It's fantastic. But Ted is saying it feels a bit the same. Washington, if they win this one also, though, it has more meaning than when they beat those undefeated Eagles back in 22. What do you guys feel like? Is it the kind of the same feeling for you guys?
For me, it does feel like that. I mean, it feels like, with the dysfunction and the drama that's going on in Philly right now about their passing game and who's friends with who in the locker room. And to us being hungry and realizing we can win now when our expectation and the goal this season for the team was to recalibrate and just compete. But now we've met and passed all expectations to be at 9-5. So it does feel like Eagles are looking at this game as like we've already beat them. We've won this many in a row. This is just another dub. We don't really care. They're like overlooking us a little bit. But I just have a feeling that we're catching Philly at the right time to go out there and shock the world and get this W. It just has that feeling. I don't know how to describe it really in words other than what I just said, but it does feel like
it's called a tingle. It's
just a little tingle, like a little gut feeling that like we're mad because the way we perform. The Eagles are like, whatever, it's the Commanders, like they ain't nothing. So I think they might be taking us for granted and we'll just keep fighting and come out with that W.
I mean, I think the Eagles have something to play for, though. That's the thing. Although they have locked up a playoff berth, they really want that 1 seed and they want that extra week off to get fully healthy and prepare for whomever. So they do have something to play for, but there is also something to what you were saying, Trev, in that this team has won 10 in a row. I just don't see them winning 13 in a row. Right. At some point, they're going to have to lose a game. And they do have some dysfunction, but they've been able to overcome all of that with just pure talent because they have a lot of talent. They have good coaching as well, but they've been able to overcome it. But at some point, that's got to catch up with them. And it happens to every team at some point. Nobody goes 17-0, and they're going to get a loss. And their next 2 games after this are the Giants and the Cowboys. And next week, though, is the Cowboys. And so as much as we in Washington like to look at Philly and say, they're a big rival of ours, they don't necessarily look at Washington that way right now because Washington hasn't been a threat for 25 years, right? But Dallas is their big threat. And Dallas is next week for them. Yeah. So maybe they are overlooking that. A little dysfunction, a little do theory. All of these things kind of come into play. Like Trev said, Washington's a little ticked off about that. So there is a little bit of truth to that. And I do kind of get that same feeling that maybe this is the week that the Eagles stumble a little bit.
Just like remember that when the Steelers came to town, 11-0.
Yeah.
Was that COVID year?
It was COVID year because that was on a Tuesday or Wednesday or something.
Yeah, and they were 11-0, and they came to our house, and we shocked the world and stopped their winning streak and went on to win the division.
And that was a team also, Trev. That Pittsburgh team was a team. You're like 11-0, but they got a lot of warts on that team. They shouldn't be 11-0, but so they were a little bit vulnerable at that time, I think. And maybe Philadelphia's in that same way. Maybe they're a little vulnerable.
Well, a win against Philadelphia, and we're going to go in depth in a little bit. In fact, we're going to kind of table some of the exact Philly stuff. So Leigh Mayock will be coming, and she'll be talking to us about the Eagles side. We've got Trevor's news and notes that's going to come up before then, and also Stoner's Nuggets before then. So I don't want to spoil too much of that. But a win against the Eagles would put Washington in much better position. They still have to win 2 out of the last 3. To absolutely lock it and make it. You mentioned Stoner, Washington not in play for the number 1 seed, but they are in play for the number 2 seed. That's by winning out and Philadelphia losing out.
Yep.
Astronomical odds for that to happen, especially with the Giants on the docket for the Eagles. So that's probably not going to happen. But what does a victory here mean for Washington going forward with the Falcons and the Cowboys up after that?
Well, that puts them in prime position to obviously, almost lock up a spot. All you need is for Atlanta to lose a game, and you play them the following week. So you win that game and you're in. They can still get in also, Nathan, with just 10 wins by only winning one of their last 3. But they don't control that destiny, right? They need help with that. And the only help that they need, is an Atlanta loss, right? Or the Rams and Seahawks to lose one game combined, just one total, and then also not tie in their regular season finale, right? So that's really all you need is for Atlanta to lose one of their final 3.
Which they're about to start. They just made a change, and I think this is a good transition into those opponents that we're looking at, or those other teams that we're looking at in these playoff spots here. Atlanta, who's up after the Eagles, just benched their $160 million man, Kirk Cousins, to start a rookie in Penix Jr.
Yeah.
Now, granted, that's going up against the Giants this week, so it's still a favorable position for the Eagles. But then that's potentially going to be the matchup for Washington, which I don't agree with or understand why people would be nervous. I guess I a little bit understand that it's an unknown factor.
Yeah, it's the unknown.
But for the love of goodness, like, give me Penix Jr. over Kirk Cousins. This guy did throw for 500 yards and like 5 tutties not that many weeks ago. Okay. He is still capable of putting up some video game numbers. And so give me the guy who has not seen a lot of NFL action. Do that for me. Let him make rookie mistakes.
We like to goof on Cousins, right? Cousins is a very, very capable quarterback, even this year. We know what he's capable of doing on the field in a positive way. So I would not want to face Cousins. I know people are very quick to say that because, hey, Kirk Cousins, he sucks. He doesn't suck, okay? He's going through a bad stretch right now. Michael Penix, we don't know nothing about him. And he's a rookie. And I don't expect a rookie to step in at some point and just start dominating in the NFL.
Okay. I would much rather play Kirk because he's thrown in the last 9 games 1 touchdown and I think 9 interceptions, 8 interceptions.
5 games.
Last 5 games, 1 touchdown, 9 interceptions.
Yeah, Grimjaw had that up. 9 interceptions, 1 touchdown.
And what did he do before that?
That was that. No, that's he was 17
good in your last 5 games.
Yeah, because that's the most recent. The first 9 games I don't really care about because we were 7-2 at first 9 games, and now we're 9-5.
What about the first 9 years? That accounts for nothing.
He's on his what team? What number team is he on right now?
He's on his 3rd team.
How many playoff wins does Kirk Cousins have? How many playoff appearances does he have?
Probably. I think
Cousins not a winner.
He's not a winner.
Okay,
we don't have any tape to go off of Michael Penix.
You went right to playoffs with Kirk Cousins. We're talking about a regular season game here.
But we're playing, it's meaningful games now.
Excels.
But we're playing meaningful games now, and he's not excelling right now. He just barely beat whoever they played. He won that game, threw a touchdown, and he still got benched. I would much rather play Kirk Cousins because we have no film to go off on Michael Penix Jr. We let essentially a second-year rookie, Spencer Rattler, come in and put up 19 points on the same defense with Marshawn Lattimore, by the way. Mm-hmm. We have, like I said, we have nothing to go off of how Michael Penix played except for his college days.
To be fair, they never did target Lattimore's person.
I know. There's
and actually, you want another stat for you? Okay, thanks to Steve at Air Raid Concepts on Twitter. PFF charted only 3 total completions against Sanistril and Igbin Ogbany. I'm pushing that one. Iggy. That would indicate our starting 3 corners only gave up 3 catches.
Yeah.
It was a fantastic game for our corners. It was Luvu, Wagner, and the safeties getting beat up. So just keep that in mind.
Kirk Cousins can't move, so we would easily get some sacks against him and make him throw some bad throws. Penix Jr. is a mobile quarterback. He ran a 4.640 for his height as a quarterback. I mean, I just don't know. Like, we don't have the type of team that we could just go out there and be like, oh, it's Michael Penix Jr. Who cares? Like, whatever. I'm not worried about it. We have the type of team that all it takes is for him to get a little hot and do some damage. Spencer Rattler just did that to us last week, you guys.
Yeah.
Spencer Rattler.
Sure.
Who was not even picked to start over Jake Haener, who threw for 4 completions and 40 yards and was benched. He didn't even start over Jake Haener. And he put up 19 on this same defense. Yeah, he didn't throw to Marshawn's side, but he threw to other people's side or whatever. And the Falcons do have Drake London. They do have Bijan Robinson. They do have Kyle Pitts whenever he's involved in the offense. Their defense is kind of struggling, but they've got more weapons on the offensive side of the ball than we just faced last week. And I'm just saying, I don't know, man. I know it's the Giants next week, but if he comes out and balls up against the Giants, then we're going to have to start to worry just a little bit. Because just think about it.
Well, then
we barely beat
minimum,
the Giants both times, but we won. So I don't know. I'm just scared of the unknown. I'd rather face somebody who we know that we
then
can
that's
get to.
Beautiful then that they're going to start Penix against the Giants. So you get a little bit of tape and you'll get a little bit to see what's going on there.
I don't know, man. It's just going to be weird.
TJ here bringing up, is this week 16 or 17 focus on the Eagles? There's going to be plenty of time to talk about the Eagles, TJ. In fact, I mentioned Leigh Mayock is coming, and we still have Stoner's Nuggets and Trev's News and Notes all coming up about the Eagles. Right now, we're trying to talk about the playoff-bound Washington Commanders, 83% chance for them to make it. And this game against the Eagles is important. The game against the Eagles keeps the NFC East in play if Washington wins it. But we're talking about how Washington can potentially get there. And part of that is when you're looking at their opponents. The Eagles also, not the Eagles, but the Falcons also put their kicker on IR.
Yeah.
And so they'll be searching for a kicker. And then you look at some of the other teams that are in the hunt for this, and they're imploding. And that bodes well for Washington, with Seattle Seahawks likely going to be without Geno Smith for at least another game, which means Sam Howell, who had been sacked like 4 or 5 times in limited play last week, he's going to be starting a game for the Seahawks. And so Washington's opponents, not the ones they're facing on the field, but the ones that they're looking at when it comes to the playoff race, are starting to wilt, putting Washington in even better position. Seahawks in currently the 8th spot, Falcons in the 9th spot. Cardinals in the 10th spot, they're 7-7, but realistically, they're fighting with the Rams to get control over that.
That's their only way they can get
West. That's the only way they're going to get in. So
the game next week, Nathan, against the Falcons, almost regardless of what happens this weekend, unless the unthinkable happens and Washington wins and Atlanta loses.
Yeah.
The game next week is basically a playoff elimination game. Because if Washington wins, Atlanta's out. That's 100% that they're out. They can't catch Washington because Washington will have 10 wins. The best Atlanta can do is 9. So that one would be an elimination. Washington would not be eliminated, but they would have to beat Dallas in the season finale, and Atlanta would have to lose to Carolina in the season finale. And you don't want to, you lost your destiny, your control of your destiny. So that's why we're kind of talking all about this Atlanta game in terms of Washington's playoff possibilities. That game, almost regardless of what happens in these other 2 games that Washington has, that game is going to decide whether or not Washington goes to the playoffs. So we talked about it. And I did my hot take earlier this week, Nathan, right, on our playoff scenario show. My hot take is, and Trev's going to hate this, but this Philadelphia game, it's not a must-win game. It is. They don't have to win this game. They don't need this game. This is not an important game in terms of getting into the playoffs. Don't start going at me and saying, well, you want to show up and you want to show the Eagles that you can play. That's all secondary to what I'm talking about in terms of getting into the playoffs. This game against Philadelphia means zippy. It means nothing. You just got to beat Atlanta next week and you're in. period.
Yeah. I mean, being Atlanta all but guarantees it. Now, a win against Philadelphia would feel really good. And it would mean you get a win against a team that has a winning record.
That's a
And it makes
signature win.
Atlanta essentially a playoff clinch win rather than a likely playoff clinch win.
Yeah.
There's probably some scenarios where if Washington loses against Philadelphia, but they beat Atlanta, that the things roll the right way, they can still clinch. We'll talk all about that next week. But you beat Philadelphia this week, then you beat Atlanta next week, and you're all but guaranteed because the Stoner, that's the math, right? 2 out of 3.
Just two out, any 2 out of 3 is
rest
guaranteed.
people against the Cowboys if that's what the coaches want to do.
Right. But again, that's guaranteed you win 2 out of 3. If you beat Atlanta, it's about 99.9% guaranteed. You just have to have one little small thing happen. Again, that's the whole thing with the Rams and Seattle. Both have to go 2-0 and then tie in their last game. It definitely does determine seeding. I'm not saying you don't want to win this game. I'm not saying you shouldn't attack this game like you would any other game. All of that is in play. I'm just saying, in the end, the result does not damage their chance for the playoffs. That's all I'm saying. That's my hot takeaway on that.
Nervous.
It is going to be a game that could be potentially nervous and nerve-wracking. Why don't we get to the Trevor's news and notes here first, and then we'll get to Stoner's Nuggets.
For all your Commanders news and notes, it's the TNN. Here's Trev.
Trev, my man, what do you got for us on the news and notes?
It's been a little quiet here so far this week, coming up for the big game on Sunday, but we've got an injury report that came out today and some roster moves I want to talk about. First up, the roster moves. We have placed running back / wide receiver Kaz Allen on IR. For those who don't know, he was the guy we got out of UCLA, a Ron Rivera pick. Tried to use him as punt returner, and he kept fumbling the ball, which kept him on the practice squad. Never saw any game action, so there's that. He's probably gone next year. I think Nathan said that in the group chat. It's fine. Right. And we went out and signed tight end Tyree Jackson to our practice squad. Now, he's like 6'7", former quarterback for Buffalo University or college, whatever it's called, and transitioning from quarterback to tight end. That move, I think, was for the Zach Ertz concussion deal that he's going through. He's in protocol. Somebody said today that, of course, he did not practice today, but it's also a rest day on Wednesdays for Zach Ertz, so we really don't know how far along he is with the concussion. But
he ain't playing.
He probably will not be playing. So,
and it's a big deal, by the way, but he ain't playing.
It is a big deal, but like you said, it's not a must-win game, so I'd rather have him out right now when it's okay to lose than have him out for a must-win game. But he is out. The Eagles injury report, everybody's resting. Anybody hurt on their squad. I think Sidney Brown, their safety, has a concussion. And Leonard Dickinson, one of their offensive linemen, has a knee issue, but it's also a rest day for him. So everyone else
lost the medicine ball. I believe.
Yeah. So, and then Bryce Huff, one of their pass rushers, is coming back to practice with a wrist injury. But for Washington as well, we opened a 21-day window for defensive lineman Jonathan Allen. Came back to practice today after tearing his pec. Listened to a little bit of his media scrum after practice today, and he said pretty much by the time surgery was done, they had a good idea that he could possibly come back and return this season, which is crazy. Torn pecs are usually season-ending injuries for no matter who you are, but not for John Allen. Great to see him back, and we could definitely use him to help.
Amazing what winning does, right, Trev?
I know.
We talked about that with Lattimore. It never really came to fruition with Lattimore and his hamstring, but it's just like, hey, the team's winning. I kind of want to be there. And you even got a little bit of that in Detroit, right, with Aiden Hutchinson saying, you guys make the Super Bowl and I'll be there.
Exactly.
So it's pretty impressive with Jonathan now. I'm excited. This run defense has not been very good. It wasn't necessarily great before with him in the lineup, but he's certainly a force to be reckoned with, and it would be nice to have him back in the lineup.
Big time.
I really didn't pay attention too much to the stadium news, but I do believe that it is kind of moving along in the way to where the stadium is going to be. I think the top 3 choices are DC, Virginia, and Maryland. Like I said, I don't know the details. I don't know what's approved and what's not approved, but just from what I grazed over, it looks like that we're in the right direction of getting a new stadium built somewhere up in that area. Just don't know where yet. I personally don't care. DC, Maryland is 3 hours away from me anyway, so if it's there, I'll still have to travel 3 hours. If it's in Virginia, that's cool, but I don't know. We're not the Virginia Commanders, so
Virginia looks like a long shot at this point. It really looks like it's going to be down between either the RFK site or staying at Landover and doing some things on that particular front. Things are moving in the right direction for DC, but there's still a lot of hurdles. It does seem like that's where Harris and company kind of want to go, and so they're trying to move things in that direction. But Maryland is not giving up. They did take some concessions to not block the bill and not stop RFK going to DC ownership. They're getting some jets and they're getting the Key Bridge, financials taken care of.
Thank goodness. That affects me big time. But
Governor Wes Moore talking about how, hey, Maryland's still going to push for them to come to or stay in Landover. And so I expect some more kind of battling and bidding, which is good for the team, by the way. It's great for Harris and company to have these two locations bidding for Washington rather than Washington, the Commanders, the team bidding and trying to fight to get somebody to take them there. So it will be interesting to see.
Yeah, the first big step is DC has to get control of the land. And that's what the whole thing was, is that the bill proposal did make it into the legislation that they're trying to pass so that they can continue to fund the government, blah, 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 politics, but it's there. And whenever they finally pass this resolution to continue to fund the government, that bill is in there, and then it will pass, and then DC will have control of the RFK site. And so then the mayor and all that have to figure out how to propose Josh Harris, how they can make a deal. DC doesn't have a lot of money to be able to make deals because they just gave Ted Leonsis $50 billion to stay in DC. So we'll see how that goes. You're right, Nathan. It might end up in the same spot where it is now, because Maryland's got a little bit more money than DC does. So we'll see. Either way, it's progressing to the point to where eventually the new stadium is going to get announced and on its way towards fruition.
Yeah, pretty exciting teams. That's off the field. Let's get to on the field, especially now that Bozo has left the chat. I appreciate everybody.
Did he finally leave?
Finally left. I loved Tommy's comment. It must be his bedtime. Yeah. But Bozo's gone. Let's get to those stoner nuggets. For the record, for those not listening to this live, there was a chat person who's an Eagles fan who was trolling everybody. His name wasn't technically Bozo, but it was pretty close.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're going to call him as we move on. So we have, now that we've done the Trev has more news.
Real quick, yeah. Our injury report today, real quick. Sam Cosmi did not play today with an illness. Don't know how serious it is, but he did not play because of that.
Sandstrom's wearing a mask, I believe, too. So I think that there's a bug going around, and that's not good timing.
Offensive line.
Yeah, not good timing at all. Zach Ertz on there, concussion, but also a rest day, but pretty much concussion. Zane Gonzalez is on there with his left foot, but also personal. And also Greg Joseph did not practice today either. Both kickers are out with personal family news, and I think both of their wives are pregnant, so they might be expecting to add to their family here pretty soon. So shout out to them. That's cool. But no kickers at practice today. So there was that. And then everyone else, Jeremy Chin, concussion, he was practicing today, limited.
Well, he wasn't practicing.
Yeah,
he was out there and he was on the side field. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
but I mean, that's a big deal. That's a big difference.
Yeah.
We know how that side field works, right? That's a famous side field out there in Ashburn.
Luke McCaffrey on there with the shoulder. He was limited today.
Probably from trying to chip block Jordan.
Yeah, sorry. Michael Dieter played one game, messed up his ankle. He was out there, but he's limited. And then Deron Payne with his back. Doesn't seem like it's an issue, really, because he played Sunday, but he was practicing limited. But the big ones are Sam Cosmi, Zach Ertz. And
I would not expect Zach Ertz to play this week. Concussions usually do take at least 1 week. Jeremy Chin, same thing, even though he was kind of out there. I don't expect those guys to be in and we're going to have some players step up. Maybe Ben Sinnott time. Who knows? Or it's going
that would
to
be
be
sweet.
Stoner's favorite lineman wearing a tight end number, John Bates, with some action here. I forgot to put this up here earlier. That's deja vu here. Okay. This Ted $5 super chat, this time saying, Stoner, I disagree. We need to beat the Eagles because they are the most likely team that we will see in the playoffs, one and done. If we lose, says Ted. Now, to give Stoner his retort, let's head over to the Stoner Nuggets. Let's hit them, Stoner, with those nuggets. Let's take a bite out of it and respond to Ted here.
Sure.
As far as being one and done.
Yeah, just real quick. The whole point again was not about mindset, not about hope, not about expectations and all that. It's just about the math. That's all I'm trying to say. The math is beat Atlanta and you're in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Philadelphia and Dallas really don't matter. Beat Atlanta and you're in terms of the math. That's all. All right, we got.
And as Tommy T, by the way, mentions, it's not necessarily true that they would lose in the playoffs because it is difficult to beat a team 3 times in a season. So I think it's only happened a handful of times. More often than not, the team who got swept in the regular season ends up winning the playoff matchup. It's not a given.
It's true, yeah.
But it is difficult to beat a team 3 times running.
All right, so Sunday, Washington Commanders 9-5 host the Eagles, who are 11-2, 1 p.m. Northwest Bank Stadium, right? It's on Fox. Joe Davis and Greg Olson, which I Bleav is their number 2 team, if I'm not mistaken. So they're giving this game a little bit of importance. Washington is a 3.5-point underdog. The over and under is 45.5. If you go check it out on Bet Online. Look, the Eagles' offense is pretty good. They're 6th ranked offense in the NFL, but in rushing, they are the first. They are number 1 rushing offense in the NFL. In passing, Bleav it or not, they are the 28th ranked team in passing. The Eagles are. However, you go over to the defensive side of the ball, and here's your first little nugget. We love talking about Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Saquon Barkley and Kenneth Gainwell and all of those and that great offensive line. And we love talking all about that. This team is led by their defense. Pure and simple. This defense is a bad MFing defense.
Mm-hmm.
They are first in total yards. They are first in passing yards. They are 7th in rushing yards. And they are 3rd in points per game. They average giving up only 17.6 points per game. The very first nugget I want to give you, since their bye week, here are the number of points they've given up in their games. Since their bye week, when they were kind of struggling at 2-2, and they've won 10 straight, they've given up 16, 3, 17, 23, 6, 15, 20, 19, 16, and 13. Wow. They don't give up points. This defense does not. They are an absolute, they're a bunch of dogs on that defensive side of the ball. And they don't do a whole lot of blitzing when they play. They rely, like we used to do. We used to rely on our front 4 to get home, and they never did. This front 4, they rely on them, and they do get home. So their defense are a bunch of absolute studs. There's your first nugget for that. Your next nugget, A.J. Brown via PFF is the number 1 best one-on-one receiver in the game this year, statistically speaking, via PFF. Keep that in mind. If you want to see and you want to figure out if the Marshawn Lattimore deal was a good deal, right? Let's see what happens this Sunday with Marshawn Lattimore 1v1 on A.J. Brown.
Eat him alive.
So we'll see how that goes. You're muted, Nathan.
Sanistro actually had some pretty good reps against A.J. Brown, and Devontae Smith the last rep. He wasn't on them the entirety, but it was after pretty much Joe Witt had thrown everybody over on that side. Nobody was having a good day, and Sandstrom had that good pass breakup, and then almost the same exact one against Davis as well.
Next, let's not forget that Washington led that first game against Philadelphia 10-6 going into the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
They absolutely fell apart, and Saquon Barkley just annihilated them. And so they outscored Washington 20-8 in the fourth quarter. So, and also Washington has been outscored in the fourth quarter in 5 of their last 6 games.
Mm-hmm.
Only one they didn't was the Tennessee game, which they absolutely dominated. Every fourth quarter in the last 6 games, except for Tennessee, they've been outscored. Something's going on in the fourth quarter. I don't know what it is. I think they have overall for the year like the 5th worst fourth quarter point differential. Keep an eye on that. You're leading going into the fourth. No lead is safe with Washington right now.
You're right.
Jalen Hurts has 15 rushing touchdowns. Did you all know that? You know what the record is? Anybody know what the record is for rushing touchdowns by a quarterback in a season?
17.
Jalen Hurts has 15 right now.
17.
Trick question. The answer is 15. He has the record.
Wow.
So
how many of those are tush pushes?
Oh, probably most of them, but it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Touchdown's a touchdown. Yeah.
Yeah. But also, by the way, Josh Allen also has 15 this year. So they're tied. They've both broken the record, which was set by Cam Newton.
Let's go Allen then. Score more on the ground.
Get Allen to do it.
Don't give the Eagles any satisfaction.
All right, and I've got one more nugget. But actually, I wanted to remind everybody that this Commanders defense, which we've always kind of worried about, right? Especially last year, how bad it was. But this year, they're the 11th ranked defense in total yards. And what might be the most stunning is that passing, they're the 4th best passing defense. And Nathan brought it up with some of the stats, with Sanistrill and Iggy, and of course Lattimore against the Saints. They had like 3 catches against them. This is a good very good pass defense right now. And the Eagles are not good passing offensively on average.
Yeah, don't really need to with Saquon Barkley, but I mean,
right, exactly. So Washington's defense is 25th ranked against the run, and of course the Eagles are number 1 rushing the ball. So that's what they're going to, and maybe the Marshawn Lattimore deal, having him out there and trusting him one-on-one, can allow them to pay a little more attention to Saquon Barkley up in the box. But he's a different animal, that Saquon Barkley. So, all right, one more nugget for you. Do you all remember the draft day video of Adam Peters? Remember he was talking to Howie Roseman when they made that trade, that draft day trade. Do you remember that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was he was kind of goofing on Roseman because Howie Roseman was trying to pull
he was trying to work him over.
Yeah. He was trying to give him, in their whole deal that they did, he was trying to give him pick 210 instead of 161. And Peters was like, no, I want your 161, not your 210. Anyway, the big part of that deal was Philadelphia wanted to move up to 40. So the agreement was they're going to move up to 40. Washington's going to move back to 50 and 53. And Washington's picks 50 and 53 were Sanistrill and Sinnott, right? Do you know who Philadelphia got at 40?
Cooper DeJean.
Yeah, Cooper DeJean. That dude is a stud.
He definitely can play.
Yeah.
He is a stud.
So
what would it have been like? We don't have any, we love Sanistrill, right? And he is on that same level, rookie-wise, as DeJean, right? But what if Washington had stayed put? And I believe he said to Roseman, he said, no, when they were trying to do it, he said, no, we're just going to take the guy.
Yeah,
And I think it was
threatened it.
DeJohn.
He said, if you don't give me that, I'm just going to take the guy.
Yeah, and I think that was DeJohn, right?
Oh,
Because
100%.
that's what Philadelphia won. Think about how this team might be different if they had DeJohn, right? And Philadelphia, who knows what they would have done with their picks. Anyway, I just found that really interesting.
It is a pretty interesting note. It is a
He's
pretty
all right.
interesting
He
note.
ain't
that
like no.
They got a stud at 40. We got a stud
he's-
at 50. But
he's been coming on the last few games. I don't think he started off a stud. Neither did
Yeah, true.
Sanistril to be that measure, but he has been
Thank
playing
you.
very well lately and starting to show why he was picked that high in the first place.
Yeah.
So not to give too much love there. And we're not perfect either. And Wonton here calling us out a little bit with the 3 times in a season. It's a myth. And I looked this up. This is why I was muted earlier. But from Wonton here, it's difficult beating a team 3 times in a season. Sentiment is a myth. There's been 25 such instances in the sweeping team wins 2 out of 3 times. And sure enough, I had looked that up, and that is accurate. It's tilted heavily to the team that won the sweep. So maybe a bit more important this weekend than we were giving it up to be here, because Washington potentially landing that 7th spot. Philadelphia still in position for the 1 overall seed. We hope to kind of stop that from happening, but if they don't, they end up at 2 spot, which means these teams will meet a 3rd time, and it will be up in the link. But Washington does, in fact, have a game here against those Philadelphia Eagles here in Landover, Maryland. Will the Washington Commanders get revenge against those Philadelphia Eagles? Well, we're going to talk about it with Leigh Mayock, talented Eagles fan. Unfortunate on that last part here on Ref the District. Stick with us. Welcome back to the channel, Leigh. We appreciate you joining us here again. Last time you beat us up and the Eagles beat our team up. Hopefully this time it's a little bit more evenly matched on our side of the fence here, but we do appreciate you joining us here, Leigh.
Hi, guys. It's great to see you.
What's up, Leigh?
How have you been? A good game on Sunday. You got through it.
Yeah.
No,
Survive.
you're starting off mocking. Maybe you can
No,
save the
I
mocking
mean,
for later.
a win's a win.
Okay. Fair enough.
Right?
Yeah, this is true. She can't mock too heavily because Philadelphia did struggle against Carolina. So she knows what she's talking about when a win is a win. And
It can be as ugly as you want it, but a win's a win. Yeah.
Yes.
So speaking of ugly, the Philadelphia Eagles have been, last time we had you on, it was just after Sirianni fighting with the fans and talk about him maybe not being the coach for much longer. Since then, we've still seen quite a bit of ugly coming from those Philadelphia Eagles, to include perhaps a rift between star receiver and the QB after comments were made by AJ saying passing. How much, obviously you're winning, and so it's hard, it's easy to kind of push that stuff to the side, but is there really kind of maybe something bubbling underneath the surface that if a couple losses happen, things are really going to implode there in Philadelphia?
Yeah, I don't think that winning one game after all the drama results in everything being fine. Clearly things were bubbling up. It's been going on for a minute, and I just don't think things like that go away. It shut everybody up for a week, which is great. And I'm sure that helps the team as well, because it's all we heard last week. And I know national too, I'm sure you guys heard it, but local, national, everything. No one was talking about football. The team was 11-1 then? No, 11-2. And no one was talking about that. We barely beat the Panthers, and the receivers are unhappy. And this only shut it up for a week. So if we lose to the Commanders on Sunday, we can be right back to square one, maybe even worse. So that's rude. I saw this. That's rude. But I'm glad they shut everybody up for a second. The team looked great in all facets of the game, which really helped. And that also helped quiet the noise. but it needs to continue in order for the drama narrative to be put to rest.
Yeah, and there's a lot of folks. I'm one of them. I don't like Jalen Hurts that much, right? But I would 1,000,000,000% take Jalen Hurts on my team anytime because I think he's a winner.
Over Jaden Daniels?
Oh
Yeah,
no!
what are you talking about right now?
No. Let's not. Let's not get crazy.
It's just a question.
but I am saying that I don't. Why is he always? This is what I don't like about him. Why does he always seem mad? And maybe it's because here, if you look at Jaden Daniels, I challenge you to find a picture of him on or off the field during a game. I challenge you to find a picture of him not smiling. He's having fun. Jalen Hurts doesn't look like he's having fun. And that's probably some of the maybe the backlash that he gets there in Philly.
I mean, it's just everyone's so different, and everyone has different personalities. Everyone has different, masks they show the world versus in private. And to me, I completely get what you're saying, and it would be easy. I think some of the hate would dissipate that he gets for that if he were to show a little more personality sometimes when everyone's watching. However, he's just such a football guy, and it's like he's just always in the zone. And I don't think we can hate on him for that either. It's just, it's football, serious. Like, let's win. What's the next thing? And people approach business like that. You know what I mean? So it's hard for me to hate on him for the personality that he puts out to the world. But I also agree with you. I don't think it's making it easier on himself either.
He's not a lovable character, and he hasn't been since his Alabama days. And as a Boomer Sooner here, as much as we like him in Oklahoma and appreciate his time in the Crimson and Cream, he's just always been that kind of personality where it was just, he didn't make it easy to love, where you have guys like Baker Mayfield who gets tackled by a cop after he leaves Oklahoma, and people still talk about him here.
A legendary.
It's just personality wise. Yeah. Jalen Hurts, very business, and I think part of it just comes with the territory of who he is as a person, his upbringing.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm kind of glad he didn't come out of after the initial drama with the AJ Brown passing. I'm glad he kind of didn't put on a front and try to fake a personality like that to anyone, because that would have been inauthentic and people would have hopped on that too, because you can see right through that. So I'm kind of glad he's staying with who he is and just passing the ball more.
So leading to the passing the ball more, was that really a Jalen Hurts decision or issue, or was it the offensive coordinator calling less passing plays in order to make the receivers unhappy? Like, who's at fault?
So I heard that AJ Brown was asked that, and I Bleav he said the plays were being called for him. His number was being called. It was that Jalen was hesitating. And the play he would be open, but Jalen hesitated when he should have been, throwing the ball where he trusts his receiver is going to be, holding the ball too long, and just, it seems he was almost fearful of an interception instead of trusting his receiver. AJ Brown's one of the best receivers in the entire NFL. Like, when you have someone like that on the field, you have to trust that they're going to be where they're supposed to be when their number is called for a play. So I think the play calling was there, and I think it was just hesitation and kind of fear of interceptions on Jalen's behalf, considering the end of last season, it was just interception central for him. So I think there was maybe some PTSD from that.
Well, you kind of, Trev stole a little bit of thunder here from Uptown Dre, who says, "Yo, Leigh, the coaches might be the team's Achilles heel." We talk about this as a star-studded team. You said AJ Brown is one of, and he's probably top 3 wide receiver in the NFL right now. You got a good number 2 in Smith. Jalen Hurts is not the greatest quarterback, but he's not probably below top 10. Right. And as far as that's concerned, Saquon Barkley is in the running for MVP this year, and potentially wins the rushing race against Derrick Henry. Offensive line is good. Defensive line is good. We talked about Cooper DeJean earlier. So the team's stacked. So is Uptown Dre right that the coaches might actually be the reason why Philadelphia isn't a winning team in the end?
I think it was easier to say that at the beginning of the season. I think that we've been on a 10-run win streak, and so I don't think there's anything to be blaming anyone about right now, to be honest with you. I think they really got their act together, both on the field and coaching-wise, after their early bye. Everything seemed to change. Sirianni shaved his head, and we've been riding high since. So a 10-game win streak, there's always room to improve, but I don't think there's anything to blame right now. Everything is working. It's just whether that's going to continue to work. Is Jalen going to continue to pass the ball when he's supposed to pass the ball? Is our run game going to be able to plow through defenses like it has been? Defense is lights out right now. Vic Fangio is putting on a masterclass with his defensive scheming, and it's just next level. So I would have to give credit instead of blame in that situation.
All right, Leigh, let's get to this specific game here on Sunday. And it's going to be cold, by the way. It's going to be in upper 20s probably game time, right around 30 degrees. No snow, no precipitation, but it's going to be cold. It's going to be cold. So let me just look at it from this one perspective. What does the Eagles defense have to do to stop this Washington offense? Because this is not a Washington offense of the past, right? Ranking in the leagues, they're 5th in total yards, they're 3rd in rushing, they're 6th in points. What do the Eagles have to do to stop this Washington offense?
The Eagles, I just think, have to play their game without mistakes. Their defense has been so good. They just they need to continue on and not making their mistakes. The Commanders have no problem scoring. So that's something they need to be really aware of. Terry McLaurin is awesome. Last game, you guys came out the gate. Commanders scored first, Brian Robinson. I don't think the Eagles scored until a touchdown.
We were winning 10-6. Got into the fourth.
So it's just the defense has to do what it's been doing, but this is going to be a challenge. And I never take divisional games easy. It's just going to be gritty, and the defense can't let up. We can't get in a deficit. It's just sloppy, stupid turnovers need to be when the Commanders' offense makes easy, sloppy opportunities for the defense to jump on. The Eagles need to jump on those.
I agree. So this coming Sunday, what was my question? I literally just had it.
What?
Yeah. Wow. I just forgot my question. Yeah.
Well, let's go to T Grant here. Brian Robinson earlier today talked about how Washington were the ones who lost the game against the Eagles rather than the Eagles winning, and how Brian Robinson and this team here with the Commanders feel like they're actually the better team. T Grant asking, why would Brian Robinson give the Eagles board material? What do you have to say about B-Rob's talking about the Commanders being the better team?
I think that's just gonna fall on deaf ears for the Eagles, because again, the Eagles' biggest opponent right now are themselves. They're the ones that need to worry about beating themselves. So, is there an update on Zach Ertz or Jeremy Chin?
They're both not practicing right now. Concussions unlikely that they're going to see the field.
Okay. It's just anyone that's even been close to shutting down the Eagles in the post bye week run has been able to shut down one part of their game, one part of their offense. And I don't see the Commanders shutting down Saquon Barkley. And the Marshawn Lattimore, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith matchup will be really fun to watch. But it's more the Eagles don't beat themselves.
So I remember my question. So you guys can clinch the division on Sunday with a win. How important is that to this Philadelphia team right now? Or are you guys kind of more focused on, since you have already clinched a spot in the playoffs, get to the Super Bowl, or is this division title important to you guys too?
I think it would be super important to clinch. That's eyes are on that prize for sure. No one's taking it lightly, and that's why I also think that this game is going to be extra gritty because it matters. The playoff implications for you guys are quite high as well. So I don't think anyone's taking that lightly. They have their eyes on the number one NFC spot. So.
Yeah, I think
wait, how are you guys? Do you guys have a million different playoff scenarios happening?
We do have
really.
quite a few, but it's maybe not
really.
a billion. We win out and the Eagles lose out though, and we can win the NFC East. So there's that.
Yeah.
So not in some alternative reality is possible.
Sure.
Yeah. In the upside down. Right?
Yeah, in the upside down.
But our scenario that plays out the best is if we beat Atlanta next week, we're in.
That game got flexed, right?
It did.
Yeah.
It's going to be Sunday night, and Penix Jr. will be the likely starting quarterback after.
So do you like that?
I think it's fantastic, but a lot of fans are less thrilled.
I'm nervous.
Nervous. Yeah. I think I would be nervous too.
They all think Kirk Cousins sucks, so they'd rather.
He does. That's why he's third or fourth team. All he's good as getting paid. That's all he's good as getting paid.
He is elite when it comes to that aspect.
Yeah,
but that's the Atlanta game.
He can teach a master class in how to get paid.
We should all be
a mediocre quarterback.
Yeah.
So if Philadelphia wins this week, our whole attitude is going to be, well, we don't care because our season comes down to Atlanta in week 17. So we have that riding for us. That
so this will just be if the Eagles win. Just forget it. Doesn't matter.
We're like, we don't care.
On to the next. That's more important things at hand.
Only person who thinks that right now.
I mean, it's
only person.
It's true.
You know what? Your linebackers have been playing really well. I'll say that.
Frankie Louvu is legit, although he did get scored on, and that's probably one of the biggest concerns, I think, for me going into this game. Saquon Barkley is fantastic, and Louvu in coverage, not as fantastic as his run stuffing and his aggressive pass defense, right? Like him in coverage is rough. He got scored on by Alvin Kamara last week against the Saints, and I could just see the Eagles coaching staff kind of calling that same play and seeing if Louvu learned his lesson.
Run it till it doesn't work.
Yeah. I can see it happening, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do, especially Jeremy Chin, questionable with that concussion, how things are going to line up now. Right. Big question here coming from Big E here for the panel. The biggest positive coming down the stretch is since the Titans game, Jaden Daniels looks back to his normal self. The Philadelphia game, he had trouble with putting zip on the ball. Jaden Daniels has been looking much, much closer to what he was before that injury to his ribs. Is there some concern that he fixes what, you mentioned the defense for the Eagles looking pretty good. Does it look like Jaden Daniels might be able to pick apart that defense like he's been doing here the last few weeks since getting healthy?
Oh, yeah, that's absolutely a valid concern. I don't think anyone here thinks that the last time we met with the Commanders that we met with a healthy Jaden Daniels. Everyone's aware of that. I think that was right after he got hurt, wasn't it?
It was a few weeks afterwards.
Yeah.
He got hurt against the Panthers right before the Bears game. So there's about 3 games before that.
Yeah, so the Eagles definitely kind of lucked out with that. It was definitely not a full-strength Jaden Daniels, and we've been seeing what full-strength Jaden Daniels has been doing, and that's definitely picking apart defenses and finding the open man, and that is – but like I said, Eagles defense has not had a problem handling that lately. Mm-hmm. So as much as – yes, it's a more so a concern than going into the last game, but still not a huge concern.
I was going to say, let's be honest. You guys don't have any concern for Sunday, do you?
beating ourselves.
Yeah. So playing off that drama, then, is this a Super Bowl win or bust? Meaning, if they don't win the Super Bowl this year, I mean, they're sitting at 11-2 right now. If they don't, or what 12, are they 10-2? 12-2. Sorry,
yeah, 12-2.
12-2 right now. If they don't win the Super Bowl, do things? Do the streets demand a body? Right? Do they? does the head coach go, or does is Howie Roseman on the hot, something like that happen if they don't? Super Bowl or bust.
It wouldn't be Howie. Howie's put together a nasty roster with depth everywhere. It would not be him at this time. I think it would more so depend on what that loss would look like in the Super Bowl. If the offense is passing and running, if it looks like a cohesive unit and they're just not the better team that day, I kind of think people might be safe. But if the issue turns into being this passing game situation, then that's a whole nother story. So I guess it just depends on the level of ugly.
Sure.
So you guys lost Brandon Graham with a torn, I think, tricep or something like that. Do you think he'll come back next year, or do you think this is probably the last go around, or do you think that depending the end of the season will determine that as well?
So many variables, right? But I mean, even the beginning of this season, he was saying everyone was assuming this would be his last season, and he was like, I might have more in me. So I mean, that could have added on if he heals up correctly and just is itching for more football. I mean, I could absolutely see him staying an extra year. But I think it depends on mainly how he heals and how his body heals up. He was already itching for more football before he even got hurt. So I could definitely see him wanting to stay. Yeah.
Yeah, his motor never
run it back.
He's like 70 years old. So
yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
We've got a lot of Eagles fans in the chat, Leigh, and a lot of them are talking a lot of smack here. One of the main things they were talking about is Guantanamo Bay. Quentin Mitchell, the standout cornerback for the Eagles, did have a very good game against Terry McLaurin. Now, the game plan didn't really go towards Terry McLaurin.
Yeah, he had one reception for like 10 yards?
One for 10 yards last time. So a lot is being made of that matchup. Do you think Mitchell can have a repeat performance against Terry, who's having a career year, just coming off a 2-touchdown game and has been really lights out against most teams this year?
I'm going to say that Quinyon Mitchell is hungry for that matchup, and he wants them to throw Terry the ball because he wants to ball out, and that's what I love about him. He's hungry for that competition every game. He doesn't like when they're not throwing it his way. So when you have someone that young and eager and athletic, I mean, that's a triple threat for sure. And I know that he thinks he can match up with Terry 10 times out of 10. So when you have that kind of confidence too, I fully Bleav in Quinyon Mitchell. Quinyon Bay is where it's at.
Yo, do you see this? The difference in the last time we had Leigh on? She was more like concerned, a little shaking her boots. Now she's like,
now she's
like, oh, you're confident. Like, we're gonna win.
I wasn't that confident about the Eagles last time I was on.
No, now you're just like, who do we play next week? I don't even want to talk about that.
No, I just really, it's wild to feel this way about a team. Like you guys said, you're like, you don't have any concerns. I can't Bleav the way the team is coming together. I really can't.
I mean, nice job, Quinyon Mitchell against Terry McLaurin. That's one game. Talk to me after they've played 4 or 5 games against each other.
I know, and he's a rookie, and I know there are threats to that as well. I mean, I'm not crazy. I love how hungry he is, and that's going to be fun to watch. And I'm taking Q, but I'm a defensive girl anyway. Like my money's always on the defense.
And Code Talker did point out that it wasn't really man coverage a lot of the time. It was cover 2, 4, 6. There was a lot of bracket coverage around Terry McLaurin, and they were forcing the ball to try to go to a number 2 wide receiver, Washington, not as deep.
All right, then
in
next
the wide
man
receiver room. Yeah.
Okay.
Just have him go.
Got depth, so it doesn't really matter.
Just have him go a couple of lockers down and ask Darius Slay what he thinks of Terry McLaurin.
Yeah,
because Darius Slay says Terry
70
McLaurin's
years old,
a top
too.
5 receiver. So anyway, so this is the point of the show where I always ask that my final question anyway. I got to get your score, your game prediction on what your score is and how it gets to that point.
Okay. These teams both can score. So I'm going to go 34-21 Eagles.
Wow.
The Eagles are not having trouble scoring early anymore. So if that's still the case, then I think it will be a high scoring game. I think it'll be high scoring, like semi high scoring for both. 34-21. I just don't think once we get going, we're not going to stop. So
34-21. Got it.
Mark it down.
We're marking it down for sure.
Okay, what do you guys think?
I mean, I'm a little bit different on this. I think these are two really good defenses. I mean, the Eagles are a great defense, let's be honest, right? And Washington is actually a pretty good defense. They do have trouble stopping the run, and their Achilles heel this year is fourth quarters, just like it was shown in that first game where Washington led 10-6 and ended up losing, giving up 20 points in the second half, right? So I think it's going to be very similar to that. Not as sloppy as that first game was. I think the Eagles missed. What was that? The game? It was like we had like a blocked punt and a blocked field goal.
Yeah,
and,
the special teams looked legit, right?
Yeah,
that was actually that was a Cowboys game.
I think the next game. But I think the Eagles missed like 2 field goals or something.
Yeah.
They
made it. They made 2, and I think missed 2.
Yeah,
they missed
and an extra
1.
point.
Yeah.
I think,
and then literally didn't score a touchdown to the 4th. So. Yeah.
So I think it's not going to be as sloppy of that, but I think these defenses are going to be really tough. And so it's going to be a low scoring game going into the fourth quarter. And I think probably Philly's just going to kind of pull away, just like they do with a lot of teams. When they're playing a team close, they just give the ball to Saquon Barkley and get out of the way.
Run it up.
And so
and your red zone defense is kind of weak.
Yeah, so I think it's gonna go that way. So I'm gonna go with Philadelphia winning this game, but in a low scoring, quite the opposite of what you said. So I'm gonna go 19-17 Philadelphia.
Ooh, close.
Yeah, close.
But I think
19.
I think Washington's gonna be in this game. They're gonna give Philadelphia a fight that they don't expect, because Washington has a lot to play for.
No, I think it'll be close until it's not. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going
it was close until it wasn't that first matchup.
Yeah.
So Trev is beside himself on these
He'll
picks.
never not pick Washington.
So
I didn't pick
against
Washington.
One time.
A couple times.
One time against you.
The one time. Is this time number 2, Trev?
Yeah, who was it I picked against us?
I'd have to go back and look at
probably Baltimore or Pittsburgh, maybe.
Yeah, one of those.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So
who do you got today, Trev? Is this the second time, or are we?
I'm going with Washington. I just got that gut feeling that we're going to shock the world for real this time. 30-26. I think it's going to be Philly. I think it's going to be a different game than the first game. How we bottled up Philly to the fourth quarter. I think they'll bottle us up to the fourth quarter. We'll come out and score 30 and to their 26, 30-26.
Okay.
They've given up. Philadelphia's defense has given up.
You have nothing nice to say.
Once.
Don't say anything at all.
Once, Trev. Do you hear me, Trev? Once all year.
That's fine.
All right.
Yeah. Number 2 will happen on Sunday.
All right.
Raj here is taking my thunder. I am going to take Philadelphia this game, 27-20. I was riding high last time thinking Washington was going to challenge. I had the tingle that time, Trev. I don't necessarily have the tingle this time. I do think it'll be a better showing from Washington, even though it was 10-6 going in the fourth quarter. Washington wasn't really playing, to Brian Robinson's credit. They weren't playing the best game, and they didn't necessarily look like the best team. Philadelphia was coughing up all over themselves, and Washington was failing to capitalize. I think Washington has a better go of it, but I think right now Philadelphia is just such a potent team. And I think that no one's cracking 30 this game. You got Lattimore back in the lineup. Sanistro played well the time these two teams met. So I think that there's some defensive things that are going to work better, but Saquon Barkley is just a difference maker. And I think that's going to be your 7-point advantage for the Philadelphia Eagles this time. Sorry, Trev. I had to take off the burgundy and gold glasses.
Stoner, didn't you say you can't see Philly winning 13 in a row? So the train has to stop some point, and you were like,
They're gonna lose to the Giants.
And then when Leigh gets on as a guest, you cave and crumble like a little weakling.
I
like,
know. I probably just made great points. So you couldn't help but to come over to this side.
Can't be trusted, bro.
I'm sorry, Trev. I'm sorry.
You disappoint me. You disappoint me.
Sorry, guys.
Well, Leigh, we definitely appreciate you having back on here on Ref the District. Any parting shots for us?
No, honestly, it was great to see you guys. Are you going to the game?
No,
not me. I'm in.
No, we all live
too cold for all of us. Well, we can analyze from afar.
Yeah,
exactly.
We will be in fact live after.
I live closer to Philly than I do Washington.
Then there you go. You're good. We'll all stay warm.
So, well, we appreciate
thanks for having me. It was great chatting with you guys as always. We'll do it again soon. Maybe if we meet up for the third time.
A third time, quite potentially. That's Leigh Mayock here, folks. You can catch her on her own podcast, Bleav in Eagles. Leigh, we appreciate it, and I do hope we get to meet up again, because that would mean you guys did not get the number 1 seed, and we're in the playoffs. So I'll take it. I will take it.
Upside down world.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Let's continue on here with our breakdown here of the Eagles matchup this Sunday. Not too high here in Ref the District. Only Trev sticking with the home team. Washington 3.5-point dogs right now to these Philadelphia Eagles. We did have a super chat donation from Captain Obvious. We appreciate you there. Hurts throws a late pick 6.
Oh, I like that.
For the Commanders, 31-27. That would be exciting. Who gets the pick 6, Captain? Benjamin St. Juice in a surprise return to prominence? Probably not.
Hey, Trev.
Yo.
Commanders are winning this game.
Oh, now that Leigh's gone, you're gonna say that? Now that Leigh is gone?
I mean, for real?
I'm just playing. They're not winning.
Nah, they will win this game. You're right.
Yeah.
I don't know how.
I will say that I felt really good about the game going, because we just lost to Steelers in a way that we shouldn't have lost to them. And so I was riding high, and I really felt like they could challenge the Eagles. They did lose the game against Dallas, so you lose a little bit of faith there, right? And then they play the Saints a little bit close, but maybe that's a good thing. Maybe now they sit there and they're hungry. Maybe you put too much stock into that, though. I think this is going to be a good game. I feel like this will be either back and forth, or Washington can be leading once again in the fourth quarter and then just not be able to keep it going. But this right here is a matchup not maybe important for the playoffs, but I think it's a matchup important for a team that people still don't necessarily believe in. Right? They know Jaden Daniels is a good QB. They can see there's maybe some glimmers, but until they beat a team with a winning record, there's a lot of doubt surrounding whether or not this is actually a good Commanders team, or a team that is feasting off of a 31 ranked schedule.
Yeah, they do not have a signature win this year. And that is important to the psyche of your team going forward, not just this year, but in future years. Dan Quinn even said it in his press conference today. You can't be a big boy until you beat the big boys. And this is their opportunity to do that. So I think they do have some motivation. And I'm just worried that in the end, the talent is going to win out in the fourth quarter of this game. And for whatever reason, Washington struggles in the fourth quarter. And this is kind of shaping up to be another one of those games. But yeah, they do need a signature win. Because even if they beat Atlanta and get into the playoffs, Atlanta's still not a signature win, because they're going to finish 9-8 or 8-9, one of those two. So they kind of need this for the future of what Dan Quinn is trying to do for the organization, him and Adam Peters, right? They need that psyche. They need to be able to go into next season. And because we've talked about it some, and people don't really want to talk about it too much until the offseason. Next year is a whole different animal when you look at that schedule. It's a whole different animal. And because you've got the NFC North, which is Detroit, Green Bay, Minnesota. That's 3 teams that are going to be in the playoffs. Plus Chicago, they're going to be improved with the new coach and Caleb. You got the AFC West, which is Kansas City, Denver, right? And then you're going to have a second place schedule now, so your extra games are going to be against second place teams. And this year they have 9 games at home and 8 on the road. Next year they're going to only have 8 games at home and 9 on the road. So next year is going to be really tough, and they're going to make a lot of improvements. So I think they need this for their organizational, their big approach to how they want this team and the whole organization to go forward.
Well, let me stick with you here, Stoner, because Trev actually does believe that the Commanders will win. So we're going to get Trev's take on this as well. But for Washington to win, to flip your mind here for a second, because you picked Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Who has to be the standout performer for Washington to make this a W for them?
Yeah, and this is kind of a cop-out, but it's got to be Joe Witt Jr. He's got to devise a defense that can stop Saquon Barkley. That's really as simple as it is. So then you're going to have to look at your linebackers, right? And Frankie Louvu and Wagner and possibly your safeties coming up and helping with Barkley. You got to stop Barkley, period. And that's going to be all up to Joe Witt Jr. to figure out a way to stack the box against him, but still stop A.J. Brown on the outside and still stop Devontae Smith and still keep Jalen Hurts from making those scrambles, those runs. That's hard to do, man. That's a good offense over there. So Joe Witt Jr. is going to be my key for this game if they want to win.
TJ has the O-line as his key, and Luis has B-Rob, hands down.
I don't worry about the offense.
The victory. You think the offense is just going to perform the way that it wants to perform?
Not necessarily they're going to be going up and down the field like they have in a lot of these games, but they're going to do what they're going to do because they're good. Even though Philadelphia has a great defense, they're good at what they do. And I think anytime you have Jaden Daniels back there, he's going to move this offense. Their success rate is all over the statistics. Mm-hmm. So I don't worry about the offensive line. I worry about stopping Saquon Barkley.
All right, Trev. Yeah. You said they're going to get a victory. Who's the victory on the back of?
It's got to be Cliff Kingsbury / Jaden Daniels. And I say that because Cliff's got to call a game. He's got to call a really good game. He's got to take advantages of the defense when there's a chance to. You got to run the ball. You got to keep the offense honest. Yeah, I know their front four is nasty, but they get tired. They're big boys. Just keep going at them, get them tired, and see what this so-called depth that Leigh is talking about can do. And then Jaden Daniels, I know he had a better game on Sunday against the Saints, but he also missed a few marks with Terry McLaurin. He's got to have a better game. He's got to scramble and get rid of the ball rather than taking 1 or 2 yard losses on a scramble or no gain and getting us behind the sticks on 2nd and 3rd down, making it hard for us to convert and run our offense. So if Cliff calls a good game to Jaden Daniels' strengths and to B-Rob's strengths and the running game strengths, then I think we have a much better chance of winning this game rather than just going out and trying to be cute or trying to do way too much just because it's the Philadelphia Eagles and their record scares us and their defense scares us. You just got to play to our strengths and play to their weaknesses and call a good, clean game. And Jaden needs to be a little bit more smarter with the ball, and his timing needs and his connections need to be a little bit more better this week because, like last week, we had opportunities to blow them out, and we just didn't because we were a yard too short on the pass, or the scramble was we took 8 sacks, or he was scrambling too much and not throwing the ball away. We got to take advantage of what the defense gives us this game. And I feel like there's going to be some chances for that to happen. We just got to capitalize on that. So.
Do you think that they should do like they did against New Orleans, where B-Rob got 20 carries, he got 21 carries, but on 20 of those carries, he averaged 2.3 yards per carry. Do you want to see them continue to run the ball even though they're not getting anywhere?
Yeah,
or do they have to just abandon it at some point?
No, I don't. I mean, unless we're down 21-0 in like the first quarter, then you got to abandon it. But if you got to come out, run the ball, because those offensive linemen have to do this every single play. I mean, every play, whether it's a run or pass, they got to do that. So if you just keep attacking them with the run and you get 3 yards here, 4 yards here, 2 yards there, wear their asses out. Just keep the run game honest. I want to see like maybe at least 30 rushing attempts. Seriously, you got C-Rod. I mean, he's proven that he can hold his own a little bit in the running game, but we only give him like 2 or 3 carries a game, which I don't like that. I think if we got the running backs, you should use them, especially against a defense like this. Run C-Rod up there, run B-Rob up there, run McNichols up there, run some plays for Jaden Daniels. That'll open up the passing game more, and we can use and utilize Jaden's passing game a lot more with that too. So yeah, I want to see that. I don't care if you get 1 yard, 2 yards, but they got to be appropriately called too. Like if it's 3rd and 9, I don't want to see a handoff to B-Rob just to get us 5 more yards. We can have a
6 yards on that carry. It doesn't do you any good.
You got to know when to call them, but just be aggressive in the run game.
That's where I like stats like DVOA or success rate and everything like that, because they take that into account, right? It doesn't matter that you had a 6-yard run on 3rd and 9. That didn't get you a first down. It's not successful. Likewise, they take into account, like Stoner, you had mentioned against the Saints, B-Rob had a 20-yard run, and then a lot of those other runs weren't very successful. And so you do need to have more consistency. And I'm going to stick with you, Trev. I think you got the right answer. I feel like the game last time against the Eagles, the defense did collapse, and I understand needing to stop Saquon and putting the pressure on Hurts and having Lattimore and San Ristil have a good game, right? And these are all things that the comments that we've been seeing from our viewers here, and even Grimjaw have said the defense is the one that needs to find a way. Run blitz to stop Saquon, sticky coverage with Lattimore and San Ristil. I think we can pull it out. And I think a lot of people are leaning that way, but I feel like it's the opposite. And Nathan agreed with me in the chat as well. You win that time of possession battle. If the offense stayed out and was more consistent in that first game, instead of scoring a late touchdown, right, to make it a one possession game, like this, that's a better outcome for Washington, because the defense played well going into the fourth. They collapsed because the offense couldn't get anything going. The turnover happened late, and it just wasn't a game for Washington. I think if Jaden Daniels and Cliff Kingsbury and Brian Robinson in that offensive line can establish a rhythm, they can really put the Eagles in a position where Saquon is going to be more of a pass catcher than a runner. He's effective either way, but if you at least take out half of what he's capable of,
exactly,
you really do make things a little bit better. The Eagles won the time of possession last time, 33-26. You need to close that gap.
Yes, for sure. I agree. And running the ball will do that.
Yes, sir.
We will be live after the game for our instant reaction. So you can catch us right here on Ref the District on our YouTube and Facebook channels. Of course, we stream live every Wednesday here as well at 7:30 Eastern. Going to be a little bit different with the holidays coming up. So next week, don't be looking for us on Wednesday. And I am still debating for the first whether or not that's going to happen. Stay tuned on the channel. I do plan on pushing out content next week. Might be a live on Boxing Day. I'll see what's going on and talk with Trev, because our man Stoner is going to be out. So this is the last time we'll see him this year. We'll see him in 2025, returning back here to Ref the District. You should be returning here as well. Don't forget to like this video. Share the video with your fans, even all you Eagles fans who stayed in and chatted with us all throughout the chat. And of course, subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. And then if you're listening to us on your favorite audio platform, make sure you leave us a rating and review. It helps other people find us as well. I'm Nathan. That's the Stoner. That's Trev. We're Ref the District, brought to you by Bet Online and Don't Sleep Energy. And until next time,
just beat Atlanta. That's all.
Be a fan.